All right, week 18 in the books, going into the postseason now. No big surprises for the week. I'd say the best game was Vikings-Lions, obviously the last game of the season. Didn't disappoint. Well, okay, kind of did. I guess the Vikings didn't do as well as we'd hoped, but it was the only real good game given that most of the other games didn't matter. Second best, I'd say, was Panthers-Falcons, and third best was Saints-Buccaneers, just because they kind of it was to determine if the Falcons or Bucks would get in. Fourth best was Commanders-Cowboys. Cowboys actually kind of played pretty well, and the Commanders, I think, didn't care too much given that they were already in. Fifth best, Bears and Packers. Just a nice division matchup. Didn't matter too much since the Bears are out and the Packers are in, but it's always fun seeing a NFC North matchup. Titans-Texans, sixth best game. Kind of the same boat. Titans are out, Texans are in, but they kind of turned it into a fun matchup. Seventh, Bills and Patriots. It was a battle of the backups, but Joe Milton put on a show, and the Patriots kind of ruined their tank, but it was kind of fun. Makes you a little worried about the Bills. I don't remember how many of their starters were in it, but I think they'll be all right in the postseason. And eighth best is Giants-Eagles. The Giants actually played pretty well. I feel like Drew Lock's trying to make a name for himself before next year. And the Eagles mostly played their backups, so it was pretty close. The worst games, we got Raiders-Chargers. Again, the Chargers already in. The Raiders were just kind of trying to finish the season strong, I suppose. But even with their backups, the Chargers looked pretty good. No, they played. Justin Herbert played in that game. I'm not sure if I guess we'll see how the postseason goes, but I'm not really sure why they played their starters. I guess I remember like a couple of years ago they played their starters and it didn't work out so well. Like they had some injuries, but anyways, Dolphins-Jets would be 10th. The Jets, I guess, I'm not sure if it's Aaron Rodgers' last game. I guess if it is, he went out on a high note, got some good touchdowns to Devontae Adams. 11th would be Seahawks-Rams. Seahawks, I guess, just wanting to finish the season strong and show the Rams that it should have been us in the playoffs. And the only reason the Rams are getting in is strength of schedule, but whatever. 12th best, 49ers and Cardinals. The Cardinals, I guess, just wanting to finish strong. The 49ers seemed like they didn't care. Then Bengals-Steelers and Browns-Ravens. These AFC North matchups weren't very entertaining. The Bengals destroyed the Steelers, and obviously the Ravens the Browns. But the worst games would be Chiefs-Broncos, because the Chiefs wanted to let the Broncos in and not let the Bengals in, so they just played their backups and got destroyed. But I'd say the worst was Jaguars-Colts, two teams that weren't making it in, and yet it was a really bad, ugly game to watch. Oh, trash is here. So looking at the rankings, I'm going to put the Ravens at number 1. They seem like they're getting the right momentum going at just the right time, getting hot this time of year. Broncos number 2, but I'd be a little concerned because they were playing backups. If the Chiefs had their starters in, I'd be way more convinced. But if you're a Broncos fan, I'd be a little, not too excited. But at least where they stand now, I'm putting them at number 2, and we'll see how they do against the Bills. 3 of the Chargers. I think they finished their season strong. And it'll be interesting to see if either the Chargers or the Broncos make it very far. The Chargers, I feel like, have a better chance given that they're playing the Texans and the Broncos the Bills, but we'll see how it goes. Number 4, I got the Buccaneers, dropping them a little bit since they kind of were a little ugly against the Saints, especially with their backups playing, but I think they're still the strongest team in the NFC. But I got the Lions at 5 and the Eagles at 6. It's really tight with these 3 teams. They'll definitely be in the Final Four of the NFC. 7, the Cardinals. They ended the season strong, so I guess just continue the season as it's been, where I'm high on the Cardinals and then they lose, and then I'm low on the Cardinals and they win. Number 8, the Falcons, kind of the same way. They finished the season strong, playing the Panthers, but the Panthers did get the win, so I mean, the Bucks won, so it didn't matter too much, but I like what we're seeing from Penix, and I feel like if they'd played this well all season with him, they might have beaten the Bucks for the division. Number 9, we got the Bills, just dropping them a bit since they lost to the Patriots. I'm really hoping that they had a lot of starters resting and their backups in, but I'm a little worried, especially of their defense. And number 10, the Commanders. They've been solid in the top 10 for sure. I don't think they're going to beat the Buccaneers, but I think it'll be a close game. And kudos to them just making it this far when none of us thought they were a playoff team. Number 11, we got the Packers, dropping them a bit. I was really expecting them to blow the Bears out, and the fact that they lost when they had a lot of their starters in, it makes it quite a surprise. But if you're a Packers fan, just keep in mind that, they're in the postseason. That's all that matters. 12, we got the Bengals, dropping them a little bit. That defense just let them down this year, and it's a shame they're not going to make it in. But the Chiefs they let the Broncos blow them out. They weren't letting the Bengals in. 13, the Seahawks, 14, the Jets. Two teams that were pretty disappointing this year, but they ended on a high note. Maybe they can build off of that going into the next year. 15, the Panthers, same kind of given what we expected of them and how the season started, that's a pretty good way to end the season. And it makes you look forward to Bryce Young in his third year next go around. And 16, I got the Giants because I think that Drew Lock really tried to make a name for himself to be starter next year. 17, the Texans. I'll put them up a little higher since they did get a win over the Titans, but like I said, it didn't really. Titans weren't in it. But the Texans, they got so many injuries that you'd be a little worried about them. 18, I'm putting the Dolphins. It's just a shame that they fell apart at the end of the season, and then they lost to the Jets, but I guess it didn't really matter. And 19, the Jaguars, two teams that I thought would make it in the postseason, and they kind of disappointed. But 20, the Rams, dropping you guys a bit. Bad showing against the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks should have been in over the Rams. I think the Rams are going to get blown out by the Vikings, but at least their offense was clicking with Puka and Cooper once they got healthy at the same time. 21, the Colts, definitely the most disappointing, I think, team of the season, but at least they were still better than a lot of other bottom feeders. 22, the Bears, they ended their season on a high note, getting a nice win over the Packers. I think it's something to build off going into Caleb Williams' second year. We'll see who they get for head coach. 23, the Raiders, dropping you guys a little bit. I was too high on you guys these last couple of weeks, and then this week, they just get blown out by the Chargers. It was quite a surprise given how the Raiders have played the last couple games. I kind of thought they'd win out at the end of the season and just ignore the tank, but they looked pretty bad. Their defense especially looked real bad against the Chargers. But 24, I got the Vikings. That was a terrible showing by the Lions. Got to drop you guys a lot given how bad Sam Darnold looked. He was seeing ghosts all over again. 25, we're going to put the Patriots. They definitely dropped a bit this game. Even with the win over the Bills. But hey, Joe Milton looked good, so at least that's something for next year. Maybe a little QB competition. Drake May and Joe Milton, they both look pretty hot. 26, the Titans. 27, the Cowboys. Disappointing for both your teams. Lots of injuries for the Cowboys, I know. 28, the Niners. I know they want to blame injuries, but their running backs all did pretty well. I'd be more concerned with their receivers because Debo and Ayuk, they did nothing this year. And Brock Purdy actually looked pretty good. It was just their receivers let him down, and I'm curious to see where they'll go next year. 29, the Steelers, they just continue to drop every week, and it's kind of a shame that they made it in over the Bengals, but alas, maybe they can finally win a playoff game. It is against the Ravens, so maybe they went 1-for-1 with Baltimore. Maybe they can do it again. 30, we got the Saints. Disappointing end to your season, I know, even with your injuries. I'm curious to see who will get as head coach and if Derek Carr will be returning, but definitely a disappointing end. 31, the Browns, probably, I dare say, the worst team, even though they're getting the number 2 or 3 pick in the draft. The Titans, even though they're getting the 1 pick, I really don't feel like they were the worst this year. But 32, I'm putting the Chiefs just to try and curse them from having any postseason success. So let's think about the games to come this wild card weekend. I don't remember the order. The Chiefs got the bye, sadly. So then the Bills will be playing the Broncos. I expect the Broncos to look decent, especially with how they looked at the end of the season, but I don't think they're at the Bills level, even though I put the Broncos at the number 2 seed. You got to keep in mind they just played backups, and I don't think they can do that against Buffalo. But I'm a little worried about Buffalo's defense, so there's a shot that Bo Nix can just drop dimes and blow them out. So then we got the Ravens hosting the Steelers. I expect the Ravens to win, but it's a divisional game. You never really know. And lastly, we have the number 4 Texans taking on the Chargers. Too many injuries on the Texans. I expect the Chargers to finally get a playoff win, redeeming themselves from losing to the Jaguars and making it to the Final Four. If we're going to predict anything further, I'd say that the Chargers can finally defeat their demons and beat the Chiefs and go to the AFC Championship game, where they will play either Baltimore or Buffalo, depending on who wins that matchup. And I can't predict that one at this time, but whoever does win that one, I think is going to the Super Bowl. NFC side, the Lions obviously get the bye, which is good because their defense needs to rest. The Eagles will be hosting the Packers, a rematch of Week 1. Sadly, Packers fans, I think that the Eagles got this, but it could be close. You guys did play close in Brazil. I think it'll be a pretty high-scoring game like it was Week 1, even though that was forever ago. So then the Bucks beat the Rams. Yeah, so the Buccaneers will play the Commanders. I think it'll be close, but the Commanders' defense has me worried. I think that the Buccaneers can win it. And then the Rams will host the Vikings. The Rams barely made it in. I feel like it should have been the Seahawks, like I said earlier. So I say we finally have a wild card team. Both number 5 seeds, Chargers and Vikings will make it in. So going forward in the NFC, I expect the Lions to replay the Vikings again. I think it'll be closer than this matchup was because the Vikings went for it on 4th down a couple of times, even though they ended up scoring 9 points. If they get those touchdowns, they'd be at 23, and they still would have lost, but I expect it'll be much that way, that the Vikings can put up 23 points. The Lions will just put up more like 30 or even 40 on them. So then the Lions will host the championship game, and they will be playing the Buccaneers again. And, right, yeah. No, the Eagles and the Buccaneers play, and I'm proud of the Bucks, but I think the Eagles will go, and I think the Lions can beat the Vikings. So then the Lions will be hosting the Eagles, and it's hard to say, but I think this is Detroit's year. So I say the Super Bowl will be Detroit, and I want to say Buffalo, but it could be Baltimore because they're getting hot at the right time. So it should be a good weekend though, and we'll see how it goes.